Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 180 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Alright, I've got most of this all set up. My plaster's measured out. I got enough to do 2 buckets. And I've got one more out. It's pretty humid. I opened a nice new bag of Hydrocal and it's really smooth. So I'm hoping this will cure and not have that kind of softish feel that the stuff had partially gone off. But I'm going to mix these batches up really close together so I can charge this model and do it. And I'm going to see how much I can show of this casting. All right, so here goes. This has got a little bit of stuff in it, so that's going off pretty quick. It's the same age as that other bag, but it's in better shape, but it's still not perfect. You won't need an armature in this one. 2 buckets fill it right up. This isn't going to be some delicate thin wall, whatever. But this has got to work. And because this water is warm, it's really going on. It's not hot, it's just not cold. And I don't like doing ice cubes. You have to wait for the ice to melt, because if you don't, you get an ice cube in there, turns into a big fillet. Put that much in. That's 20 minutes. It says 21 minutes to do this. Okay? So I'm going to scrape my bench off and we're going to see how this turns out. doesn't look like we had any leaks. So hopefully everything charged well on the head and face and even the underparts. Almost there. Okay. Now it's better to try to unmold this while it's kind of green. You will be glad that you got 3 or 4 bolts left. You will be glad that you cleaned these threads and put some Vaseline on them, because the plaster will get in there and really bug them up. You'll wish you greased them. Sometimes you have to tap them a little bit and get them to come loose, because there was one over on the edge that there was a small amount of plaster that leaked out. That should be all of them. And I want it to get the camera back on. And we'll see if I did a good job on it. Because sometimes this doesn't work the way you want it to. Well, that one looks good. I thought there was one that had come out. When you take this off, it'll be hot, like hot to the top. You see it wick along this edge here. That wasn't okay. That one's off. Well, it's standing up on its own. That's a really good sign that the balance was all right. Now here's the moment of truth, y'all. Check that out. Hot dog. That's why I say I'm good at this. I can't believe it. I mean, I can, but okay, I got a little bit of stuff here. There's a little bit right there that didn't quite catch. So what? I can deal with a collarbone. All right? See if the camera will check this out. Man, that's a good day. I like doing this on camera. All right, now we got flashing to clean up here and this line around her head. Now, I've already trimmed a little bit on the clay. For the most part, I'm pretty good with her face. It's not perfect. I did a little bit the corner of her mouth on the clay. And this part of her head, we're going to shrink this to make her brain smaller. But that's easy to do on the clay, on the stone when we're carving it. But see, it looks like I had a little bit of loss right there. And that's the only flaws right there on her collarbone. I even got all the way out on her shoulders. Check that out. You know, you do this all by yourself for days and days and weeks and years. And this is why. Let me hand the camera back up. All right. Now I've got to go over this and clean up my lines. I don't like to use anything too sharp, but right now while it's green, while it's still warm and soft and a little damp, it's a lot easier to clean this up. And what works really well are these scrapers that I made out of the sawdust. You can go in, you gotta be very careful about using like a real chisel that's sharp. Yep. Anytime you do this, you're going to have either success, you probably won't have complete success. When you're doing like a bas relief, pretty easy. Doing this without rotating it, you can do it, but it's hard. If she rocked and she doesn't, which to me, that's the biggest success, is that she stands up on her own. Because what you'll find out is that sometimes you'll do these and you'll have to put you have to put a wooden armature or some type in there in order to be able to screw it to a larger plate, because she may be off balance if you don't have her center line in terms of her body, her posture, all that other stuff, have it well balanced. And you'll learn about that as you do it. The more you do, the better you get. The better you get, the more you'll do, hopefully. But this came out pretty well. Don't worry too much about making this perfect, like every little tiny bit of surfacing and everything, because you're going to carve it. Remember to carve this. This is my guideline, okay? This is a roadmap to where I want to go. And if I want to stop at that little junkyard along the way of side of the road, I don't have to listen to Google and just keep driving. I can stop and do whatever I want because I'm the one driving the car. Okay, it's the same thing with here. What we've got to do, I've got to let this dry. There were some armature issues. Remember, this lump in her neck is from the wooden armature. There's a 2x4 pipe. Then there was also, the pipe came through and the pipe was right here on top of her head. So on the clay, I've already dressed a bunch of this down. And I may do that on here and I may just leave it because it's irrelevant. You know, the goal, I'm not getting paid to make this perfect. I'm getting paid to make the stone perfect, that. And so now I've got what I need to go there. If you got something that looks fragile, it probably is. So you gotta be really careful about how you work it and what you do. But see, this is just fantastic in terms of how it came out, with a little bit of Vaseline right there. But I only had just a small leak. That sort of grabbed one of my pins, and that's it. The rest of it's fine. There's imperfections on it, but this is a working model, okay? This isn't, you know, if I had to do this for the foundry and I had these imperfections on a model that was going to be cast directly into bronze, you know, that's a problem. But, you know, if you don't understand the bronze process, if somebody's doing lost wax, they're going to do, this is going to be in wax. After you pull the mold off the clay, you're going to do this in wax. Then you can go through and tune it up and make sure that all your lines are perfect and make sure that everything's right. If you have some flaw, you probably put more effort into it than I did on this one because that's what you're getting paid to do. But, and you should be able to resolve your parting lines pretty well so they're not real obvious. I mean, someone that knows the work will know where to study for them and they'll be able to see the difference. But for the most part, yeah, see, I've only got this one little flaw right there. Yeah, cool deal. If you got something that's fragile, don't try to take the whole thing at once. You know, people think they're going to take a great big chunk and just knock it off. Look, dummy, don't. Little pieces are little mistakes. Take little bits of it off. Or get a saw or a Sherpa one and let it go like that. But yeah, she looks pretty good. If I've got a stone that looks that good, buddy, I win. I know a lot of y'all, well, I know a lot of people probably, well, if people aren't watching these videos, I know, I get it. Bored. Watch me do stuff and run my mouth, and he never makes anything special, and you just keep talking. I don't think he can really do it. He's dragging this out. Okay? Y'all know how long it really takes to do this, you know. I mean, these videos, you're only peeking over my shoulder when it's convenient. Oh man, pretty happy with that. Then there's stuff like this that's been bugging me forever. And I know you can do a different armature than I did. It gives you all the room to move around and do, yeah, I get it. But you can also carve granite instead of carving alabaster or marble, one of those, you know, soft, easy stones to carve, but you don't. That armature I did turned out pretty well in terms of function. You see, if you take your plaster that's still wet, it's not going to be perfect. But it still hasn't completely dried yet. And you can't just go in and wet it again. That doesn't work, okay? But sometimes you can do just what I'm doing, because this plaster is at the same exact stage as this plaster beside it here. You can pack that hole with some dust and just let it rest. It's not going to hurt anything. And there's a pretty good chance we'll end up filling some of those holes just enough that they won't be obvious. And then when I put some gesso on it, they'll be perfect. Well, I'll tell you what, you can do a lot of different stuff. But when I can, even after all these years, every time I do this, it kind of makes me just be in awe that I get a chance to do this for a living. That somebody showed me, somebody trusted me, somebody gave me a shot. And it isn't just that I went and did it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get just a tiny bit of fresh plaster and water and water. Just to put a little bit on there. And it'll fill that hole enough that, oh, there's one right here too. So, I'm just going to make a little bit of plaster up and I'll fill that hole. This one right here and right there. Now I'm just using my indoor plumbing in my plaster. If you do this, it's important to understand you need to keep your ratio right. You need to mix the plaster. Okay, don't mix it thick so you can spread it, mix it thin, and when it starts to kick, then you can go back on and fix things with it. Okay, and we only need just a little bit. Yeah, and I'll tell you, to do all this and have those be the only flaws, that's just, you got to trust your training. When you get taught how to do something, someone tells you the right way of doing it, you need to sit down and be quiet and do what they say. And there may come a time when you got it figured out and you can do a better job than them. But usually that's not at the beginning, okay? So just sit back and chill out and learn. Wow, that's really good. It sets nice and solid. That's a good job. All right. Well, wow. My name is Clint Button. I'm a granite sculptor here at Carolina Sculptor Studio with a Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.